Θα γυρίσουμε τη συζήτηση μας στα αγγλικά για να μας παρακολουθεί ο κύριος Σαζάνα. Όποιος θέλει κάποιο μηχάνημα για μετάφραση, νομίζω είναι διαθέσιμα. Έχετε λίγο χρόνο για να το παραλάβετε. So, welcome all. Thank you very much for joining. The discussion's title is Short-term rentals and destination resilience. I guess few issues today affect tourism and urban life the way that short-term rentals do. And they have grown from a market trend into a force with real social, economic, and spatial impact. So let me start by wondering and actually asking, do we have over-tourism in Athens, or is the core issue insufficient infrastructure? Mr. Gavalas. Yes.
I think, contrary to the previous speaker said, personally I think it's not like Athens has over-tourism. It's silly to discuss about over-tourism in Athens. They usually compare with other cities like Barcelona or Rome, which have totally different numbers. So I think instead of looking after our infrastructure and more work to be done, avoiding for the time being discussing all this implication about over-tourism. It doesn't make sense for Athens to have over-tourism with these numbers.
Mr. Margarinos?
From our point of view, what we look at is the international demand for real estate, which it's increasing. It's increasing year after year, and it keeps going. So I don't know if we have over-tourism from our point of view, but we have increased international demand for real estate constantly year after year for the last 10 years.
Mr. Daphnos?
From my point of view, we witness specific places in Athens of tourist interest that resemble to a phenomena of over-tourism. So have places like the archaeological site of Acropolis, experiencing pressures from tourism flows, but we are yet far enough to sustain that Athens experiences over-tourism overall. So we have to look on specific geographical areas where one could...
So it's concentrated to specific areas, that's what you're saying.
Exactly. One could witness specific phenomena of over-tourism. But overall, it would not be valid to say that we have over-tourism in Athens.
All right, we'll keep that for the continuation of our conversation. Mr. Sarzan, I'm coming to you. Airbnb is already facing a ban in 3 districts of Athens. How do you respond to this measure, and what is your stance on the government's plan to potentially expand similar bans, not only to Athens, but to other cities also?
Sure. I think, as you have seen in the presentation before, there are several regulations across Europe, very different regulations from one country to another, from one city to another. I would not call the one that you have here in Athens a ban. It's more a freeze. And actually, since I look after several countries in Europe, I have to say that the way it has been done here in Athens, it's maybe the best example of regulations that you have across Europe. Let me say why. So the way it started is that the government looked at the numbers, so the data. We have an agreement with the government, we share numbers of accommodation, numbers of taxes paid by the resident. And so they decided to freeze the opening of new location in the 3 main districts of Athens, which are the one where people tend to stay the most. And that was based on factual data. And this gets revisited every single year. So every year, the government sits down, they look at the numbers, they look at the impact, and they decide whether they want to renew the freeze or not. And this is the best way to do so, because the city changes over time. tourist flux change over time, so it's not that you can start with something and keep it forever. So in our point of view, as much as there is a freeze, as much as it is based on factual data, that is good because it manages to accomplish two things. The first one is that you disperse tourists in other areas, which are going to benefit from tourists coming in because people are visiting different areas of Athens. They bring money to other districts, and it's something that can evolve and can be changed over time.
All right. Mr. Gavalas, how much short-term rentals are the driving force behind the rise of price rentals and, of course, property prices here in Greece?
Please elaborate on this.
I mean, are they the driving force for the rise in prices that we've seen over the last 4 to 5 years?
It depends which study you should read about this, because obviously they're the part of the Hotel Association, which considers this as the not the main villain or the usual
But a
suspect.
dominant one, I guess.
Darth Vader of all evils
Right.
happened in Greece. On the other hand, the University of Athens, the Economic University of Athens, say that only 3% of, let's say, Airbnbs are only 3%, which is a lowest number. 3% cannot be a part of the housing problem. So it depends on which study, and of course, in my opinion, there is no lack of housing in Athens. The cheap housing is a huge problem. And obviously, someone who has already invested in renovating, refurnishing his apartment, it will not go out cheap. It doesn't make sense financially for the owner. So I think the real issue is the more economical apartments rather than the lack of housing out there.
Let's listen to the view of Spitogatos, I guess. You monitor the prices on a daily basis. You have a clear, I think, picture of what's going on and what is the dominant role behind beneath the price change.
Yeah, I don't believe that short-term rentals is the core of the, let's say, problem of the increasing rental prices and also sales prices, because all those are connected. I believe it is affecting it a bit, but it's the icing on the cake. It's not the cake, let's say. I believe it's the lack of supply overall that's driving prices up, because it's supply and demand. Also, some increased demand, from some subsidy programs that has increased the sales prices, and as a consequence, the rental prices, because owners are, always thinking, should I rent it? Should I sell it? Should I put it on the market? So if there's increased demand for properties, then the prices go up. And if there's a declined supply and lack of supply, then again, the prices go up. So I think that's the core of the problem. And also, maybe many people do not want to put their properties on the market because it costs a lot to renovate them. Maybe they're empty, so it costs a lot to renovate the properties. And maybe putting things in perspective, they are saying that maybe for putting a house on the long-term rental market for 500-600 euros, maybe I'm not protected enough as well for damages or other things. So I think that's the core of the problem, and not the short-term rentals. Actually, the short-term rentals, if you look at real estate from a broader perspective, it's good because it's an investment. People tend to renovate the properties because they have to be in good condition, and also it's a good investment opportunity. So overall, it helps the real estate market.
If it wasn't for the short-term rentals, do you sense that these house owners would have renovated their places or not?
Not necessarily, because right now, let's say an average return, an average yield for a rental property is less than 5%. For a long-term rental. For a short-term rental, it's typically higher. So, if you put things in perspective, it makes more sense to put it in the short-term rental market.
Right. Stefanos?
I have to agree with Dimitris. We have made a lot of research trying to establish or examine correlation between short-term rentals and prices. There is no, so far, there's no direct signs that they have a very strong correlation, but basic economic principles suggest that if you subtract properties from the market, obviously the prices will be affected. But this is not the core issue in this topic. So yes, there may be an influence on prices, but this is not the main driver of prices in the real estate market.
All right. So, Mr. Sarjana, across Europe, several countries have already imposed some tough regulation, strict rules on short-term rentals. Based on that experience, do you believe Greece should move toward a tougher European-style regulatory model? And if not, why?
Well, I think it goes back to the question that you asked the other panelists before, which is, are STRs affecting the price of rental houses? And there are two things here. The first one, they already pointed it out. I mean, the percentage of dedicated STR is very, very small. Just to say that in Athens, 1 out of 4 houses is completely empty. So that is one. The second one, which we rarely think about, is what if all the houses available on Airbnb would become available to the public? They may not necessarily be the houses that people are looking for. They're mainly 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom. They may be not fit for families who are looking for an accommodation. And the last one is, when we look at the effect of our share regulation, you see Amsterdam, for example, they've stopped the licenses. They have a night cap, so people can't rent above a certain threshold. Or Barcelona, they're limiting even more. Actually, there has been a bad impact on rental prices. Prices have been going up as much as 30%. So this is not to say that because of the ban, rents have been going up, but for sure, it didn't have the impact desired, which was to bring rental prices down. I think, and I said at the very beginning, Greece, and in Athens specifically, you're following the right path, which is looking at data, reviewing that every year, and making sure we have the right coexistence of STR and accommodation for the general public. But it's only when you start looking at data that you really can find the right solution. And it's a mix of everything. You started the panel by discussing over tourism, which may not be a problem today, may become a problem in the future for Athens. But that it's not because of STR, because everything starts by looking at how many people you're bringing into the country. And then you have the problem of where are these people going to spend their nights? Because actually, if I look at Greece, it's one of the markets where if there were no STRs, you would not be able to accommodate as many tourists as you're bringing in today.
But that applies to all European cities, I guess, right?
Sure, but Greece especially, because you have the islands, you can't keep building new places, so there is much more restrictions than the one that you have in cities like Rome or Milan, for example. And if you were not able to accommodate tourists, you would lose a great piece of your income, which is coming from touristic accommodation. Then it's always about finding the right balance. As Airbnb, we're in favor of a regulation, as long as it's something which is data-based.
So we'll talk about regulation. Mr. Gavalas, what impact have recent regulations actually had? And do you sense that the government's new framework help your sector?
Actually, quite the opposite. We're used to having every 3 months a new regulation about short-term rental, which is crazy. If the government had this initiative and passion towards fixing other issues, we would all be happier living.
We live in Europe. We love to regulate in this continent.
Exactly. On the other hand, I would like to say that regulating something without, as we businessmen like to call KPIs, also doesn't make sense. For instance, they banned the previous year and now this and the following year from city center. What impact, what actual impact this measure will have? Do we know? Do we know if new properties come to the long-term market or not? So if you want to have something, you must measure it against a real impact. And they don't have. They don't have a clue about what's happening. I think it's rather political decision rather than finding a solution for the housing problem.
Well, we've seen that regulation, the property prices are quite sensitive to the regulation. So there's a new legislation in place, and then the property market, the property prices are affected instantly or quite positively. Also, it's also sensitive to market conditions. So, for example, related to long-term rentals versus short-term rentals, shortly after the COVID period, that many short-term rental properties were put on the long-term rental market, we saw that prices increased instead of it decreasing, because all those properties were renovated. They were, as was also already mentioned, probably smaller, so higher price per square meter. So people that had made an investment to renovate them, to put them in a proper condition in order to be able to host people, you know, they wanted to have a good return. So those properties were more expensive. But overall, I think it's mostly not so much the regulation, but the motivation that should be provided to the people, to the owners, to renovate or to put their properties on the market, so that we have smaller number of empty houses. I think that's more important. And also many properties that cannot be for bureaucratic reasons put on the market. I think there should be initiatives and bold decisions to make that happen.
I guess that's the million-dollar question of how to explore, what motives that the government should give to those owners to open up their houses into the market. But we keep on discussing the issue, I guess. Mr. Daphnos?
Well, there's no one-size-fits-all to this issue. There has to be done some serious monitoring and research work on how the market evolves in specific areas and how the needs are differentiated between specific areas in Athens, let's say. And also examining specific case studies shows that the imposition of strict regulations that have an horizontal character didn't pay off. So what would be a prudent thing to do would be to have a deep dive on how specific areas change and are affected, let's say, by short-term rentals, and how other areas may need short-term rentals in order to revitalize their local economy.
Okay. Finally, Mr. Sarzana, you referred to Barcelona a while ago. You said the mayor there has moved to completely eliminate Airbnb listings. According to your view, what went wrong there, and what message does this send to other cities considering similar steps?
I think, look, Barcelona is going to be, if that comes into play, Barcelona will be the second example in the world of something which is going to be very bad for local residents and tourists. We already have the example of Manhattan, where STRs were completely banned. What happened was that hotel prices increased by 25%. That is one. So it became more expensive for tourists to stay in Manhattan, or if they still choose to go to Manhattan, they will have less money to spend for food, souvenirs, etc. So that is one. Two, rent prices didn't go down, because what people did was that they kept listing their houses, but they did that through Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, so other accommodation, so basically on the black market. So that had the impact of not only not releasing those houses to the general public, but also having people not paying taxes on properties. And the third one is that when you rent a house directly without any platform, you don't have any insurance, you don't have any obligation, you don't know exactly what you're getting into. So Barcelona can go that route, but we already know what the outcome is going to be. So the solution is not to completely ban or ignore a phenomenon, because demand is there. The question is more, how can you find the right balance? And the right balance is not for sure to completely ban, also because you are penalizing people who have invested money in renovating their properties, and you can't run a business if you don't have the certainty that a regulation will not change every 3 months, as you were saying.
Last words. You just signed an agreement with the mayor of Athens on the renovation of Lycabettus Hill. Is that right?
Yes.
I just read it a couple of hours ago. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, that is part of the commitment that we have as Airbnb. We want to partner with the cities not only to find the right regulation, but also to support tourists. And Lycabettus Hills, which is, if I'm not wrong, is right over there. It's one of the favorite spots. So we decided to invest money to renovate it and to make it available again to both the people living in Athens and tourists visiting the city, also because it's outside the city center, so it's good to disperse tourists and make them visit something new.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sazana, Mr. Melachrinos, Mr. Daphnos, and Mr. Gavalas for joining this discussion. Margarita Brunara, floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you.